Let's start recording. Good. Let's try now, for example, do something a bit more complex, which is, for example, creating an image. It's like media. That's something a bit complex. And like creating an image is the same thing as like creating an li or creating anything. So we will just create element. So we say const image equal document dot. No, we want to create, not query. Create element. Yes. What do we do? IMG, precisely. Now I have an image. It is not attached. It is not linked to my HTML. I want to do that. I want to put it in the body. I can simply do const body equal document dot query selector or get element by ID. But you can do something easier, which is, just a second. You can say document dot body. Okay? So body is something special. Yeah, just do good. So body is something special. So we don't need to reference it. We can just say document.body. Document.body refers to what? To the body. Does it make sense? Instead of saying query selector body, you can just say document.body. So we will say append child. Because a body, it's just a node. The body is like an H1 or a P or a UL, just a node in HTML. So we can say image. We have image here, but it is empty. So something I can do is I can say before image dot source. Let's do something JavaScript. Let's get a beautiful JavaScript image. What? Yeah, this one looks cool. Copy image address. So we have this image. Make sense? So we say image.source, like text content, like anything, we say image.source, like this. And we have it here. Simple. It's the same process for everything. You create an li, you create a node, you change its attribute, you change its text, you change its source, you change wherever you want, and you append it after.
And then you can also do image.width and then change the size of the
Exactly. Or you can do something. You can say, so let's say here you can just do it with this.
No, I mean in JS.
It is. You can do that, yes. You can do what, like JavaScript is more powerful than anything else in the browser, but it's just like if I will change it here. So what's the role of CSS? So you should always like give CSS like it's so the purpose of CSS is CSS, the purpose of JavaScript is JavaScript, the purpose of HTML is HTML. You should not like do styling in JavaScript. You can do that, but like minimal. Try to keep the styling in CSS. So let's say image, and we say width is 50%. Does it make sense? But let's say this is a small image, EMG. So now it's a class. It will not get applied to it because our image doesn't have a class. So we need to add a class to this image.
Image.class.
We say image instead of source or anything. We say class list. Because an image can have multiple classes, like separated by space. So we call it the class list. And a class list can have add, can have remove if you want to remove, can have toggle if you want to toggle between classes. Now we want to add. We add this. And now we have a class small amg. Does it make sense? So we can create an element. And so everything here, it's not limited to the image. We can do it with any node except the source. The source is like limited to images. But this class list, it can be added to anything else. We can say li.classlist.add. Does it make sense? No questions? Yes, everything is an object. But you don't need to think you don't really need to think about it in like an object way. Just like remember that it's something in JavaScript that we can interact with. You don't need to think in terms of details and things. Just
so instead of dot class list, you can also put bracket, and then inside the bracket, the class list.
no, it needs to be used this way.
Because I thought that if it is an object, then you can.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like here?
Yep, something like this. I mean.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, of course, because it's just an object. Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, I do agree. But you need to mention class list.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an object. You can access it the way you like, with an array access or anything. Is it clear?
What is that small image?
What?
Small?
That's just a class that I have it in my CSS.
So user defined.
Nothing magical, just a class in CSS. If I rename this to image, I need to put this as image, without the dot, of course. Does it make sense? And you can also say remove to remove a class, or toggle. Toggle will keep like adding it, removing it every time we call it. Toggling between two states. Any questions? No? No questions? Is it clear? Let's try and do this now. Where is it?
You should go to the left.
Yeah. Just, So you will do the podcast exercise now. So it is sort of similar to the one that we did before, but instead of having an array of strings, you will have an array of objects. And each object has a name and image URL. Okay? You will iterate over the array, get the object, name, image URL, and do the following steps after it.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Of course, in the browser, in the elements part, you can see it added the image and class of it and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not adding into your code of the computer.
The thing that you need to keep in mind is that that's important actually. So what you should keep in mind is that we have an HTML representation, we have an HTML code, text, okay? The browser will convert it into a tree. We call it the DOM, Document Object Model, the tree of HTML. Once that it's done, the JavaScript will forget about our code. So our code doesn't become really anything. Our code is just a step. It's easier for us. So even when you see JavaScript, JavaScript is not real. It's just like an illusion from the browser. Your CPU at the end doesn't run JavaScript, it runs something else. So you should not really think in terms of your code a lot. What you should think about is that I have an initial document, it will be converted into a tree of nodes. After that I can edit these nodes, add something to them, delete them, but that doesn't relate to my code anyway.
So
When I refresh, it will build it again and do stuff like that.
So it's not
No,
change
this-
the index.com.
Exactly. It's like, so for example, Facebook. Let's say we are on Facebook, you click on one of your friends, it will be like a chat pop-up. What they did there is like they inserted a new node. But that node, it wasn't present in the HTML file. So the HTML file only presents the structure of your code. How you will interact with it, like a slider, you go next, you go left. That doesn't really need to be encoded into your file itself. Does it make sense? Yeah. So you should start doing this one. Is it clear, or should I explain more? You can see that there is the steps over there until 4. Just try to do it over the same mode that you did it before. Yeah. I'm expecting let's time box it together. We also need to have the fence.
Stand present. Adjustable.
Adjustable.
Flammable.
The idea is not to create the LIs here. We should create the LIs from JavaScript, like with the loop like we did before. You know what I mean? No, this is just an option. So the idea is that either you create new world, or you create new world, or you could be small update, or you can create nothing world from JavaScript up to you. But the idea is that you will have new worlds, you create it, or you create your HTML, and you will loop through this one. And for each time, you create a new world. Yeah, either you create it in HTML or you create it in JavaScript, up to you. That's not the issue.
Oh, I see. You have to go to the keyboard.
Yeah.
But if you go back to it, you can see it's in main line. This is so what you do is that you create a line. Okay. You created a URL. After that, you created a bunch of allies. You put them inside the URL, but you didn't put the URL anywhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that if you put the oh, that's right.
Oh, that's
Precisely.
weird.
Precisely. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, there it is. Well, okay, so do you want to back on the damage keeper?
It's documented one. Yes.
That works.
But now you need the image.
Right, except you.
So you should follow the steps on this. For every podcast, create an ally, create an H1,
Equals.
change the
There. Okay. That was confusing. So making progress.
This and where is the image? The image is. Yeah, but you need to create an image for every call. It's like an ally. It's like the H1. So you move this image to H1 inside. Yes, and you put the source, and the source will be broadcasted. Oh, be careful. Here you should not say podcasts. You should say podcast of I. Like here.
Nice. Yeah.
Because every object is an image URL.
Yeah, and now if you just want to go and see
Podcast,
that.
and you should set the source. You're not setting the image source.
But you're noting that these things we don't podcast on, right? The podcast.
Remember, what you're just
Yeah, but it's simple, so you
no.
excellent job for that.
You have an image. You want to yes. The source equal precisely.
Yeah.
No rush. Just try to
Yeah.
do it. You see? Can find really
That one. Yeah.
yeah, because it's just delete this. Yeah. No, there is an image. Cool. Well done.
So let's just do, yeah, so let's just take it step by step. If we go create an ally, let's see, you've done that, let's see what it looks like.
I'm getting somewhere, but I have some image.
It's fine.
But please, I have some exciting and then.
Create an ally. Okay, also, and then step two is we also need to create an H1. So now we're on line 20, we create a new H1 line. So just do the same thing we did for LI, but do it for H1. That makes sense. No, because you're looping through and you're creating a new H1 for every single element. So, no, not quite. On line 20, just take two.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll let you go through it. And now capture that and create an H1 instead of that. So just go step by step with this. Nice.
This is my HTML, and I connected.
You go back.
And then this is my
So what you're doing?
JavaScript.
Trying to do
First,
is
I clicked on something, but
There's
I
two different people podcast.
checking it step by
But
step.
each podcast is like one object. So we should not put the object inside the UL, but the name of that object. So we should say .name. Because podcast, what does, no, not there, not there. What does podcast of I return to you? No, it will the whole object, the whole array.
Yeah, it is whole object, yeah.
So podcast is the whole array. Podcast of I is one object. And you want to access the name of that object, what do you do? Podcast of I domain.
Created the line, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't created it, actually.
Save, double check.
But yeah, but the very first line that is for every single podcast.
You get it, and it's an object, and you cannot just like, when you put the object inside, it's like to be like converted to string. The string equivalent of an object is like now you need to try same way you created them.
You just added string to
Literally the same.
I'm just trying to create that and
I would say create your UL in the HTML. So if we go to the HTML, add a UL right here. There we go. And now select, you can there you go. This looks great. This looks better. Okay. So you've done steps 1 right here, you've done step 2 right there, and then on step 3 say change the image, and now put it in. Change the image, and now put the H1 equal the name. Nice. Yeah, that's great. Well, remember,
Put the image code inside.
Yeah.
so you edited the H1 to that. You haven't inserted the line into each one. So for instance, there's just these things right now. And so that's why I think the last exercise. You go to the last it says append element name. So maybe skip to the last step and do that one so you actually see the results. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. And then you can keep working. You can do it in the same.
One piece I realized that it was the same.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I should change the sound.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
This is just the same thing.
How it's going?
Yeah, you've also
Because you're not appending and no, remember that we said text content is for text, but text content is also rather than there's not even text content, there is one text content, so no, it's only one text content. Okay, sorry. Yeah, because so the image URL we don't put it into ally. We put it in the image. So we create a new image, like I did there, create image, and we say image dot source equals podcast a image URL, and we say append child.
So but this can be
Yeah, but now we need to create image. Yeah. So that's because it put the source as a yeah, go. Just a second, please. Yes, because so what does podcast? What does it refer to?
For every podcast.
Podcast
create
with
one
accelerate. What does podcast of I refer to? When you say podcast of I, it refers to an individual. No, but it refers to an individual object. Like 1, 2. Yeah. Make sense? So when you say here text content equals podcast of I, you are putting the whole object inside text content, but we are not interested in that. We want the name of that object, so we say dot name. Does you know what I mean? That's the idea, and you do the same thing for the image. Yes. What's the
Taking this,
open the console?
which was given, and I created like.
Please, if you don't
The
see
loop.
any, like if you don't see anything, if the page is blank, you don't see any result, open the console. Maybe there's errors there. That will give you like a hint.
Okay, so
Yes,
let's go through.
P-pen child. It's called
Where's the
pen
homework?
child.
Sorry.
Here, and you can see here line 2.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what I'm doing.
What?
Okay. So
What do you mean? Oh, today.
create a UL.
Creating.
Have you done that? Let's just go let's go step by step looking to see if you've done it. You've done it.
Just a second.
HTML I created.
Great. Perfect. Alright.
Can you go back?
And now let's go back to the homework. Loop through every podcast. Alright, let's see if you've done that.
No,
For
that's-
podcast outline plus plus. Perfect. Let's keep going. Create an LI. Okay, let's see if you've done that. This looks great, but I would not add them, I would not put them together, I would put them in 2 separate lines.
Yeah, so what?
So instead of,
What
yeah,
did you do now?
let's
is
just
that
do line by
you created a
line,
UL?
instruction by
You
instruction.
created a UL?
So now we're working on
For
create a
every
new
UL,
LI. Let's go back
you
to
put
the
an LI
homework.
instead of UL. Okay, but the UL you didn't put
Create
it
an
anywhere.
LI. Perfect. Alright, next step. Create an edge, H1.
That's the key. So what you should do is just say
Create
here,
the same one.
document
Yeah?
the
I
body.
mean, you're creating, you're using the same,
New object.
no.
I have.
We don't want a new object. We don't want to use the same variable name.
Yes,
It needs
I'm
to be
coming.
Different variable names.
Oh, okay.
So just go line by line following it until
Yes.
you get stuck.
Ah, okay.
What you've got right now though looks great. Up until that point.
Yes, so
I don't know what happens after.
No, but so I don't know what's the purpose of this section, but it wasn't actually used for fun. But the idea is that you should, so the same way you create an LI here, you need to create image too inside here.
Okay, you do not find it.
No, you don't need this. So just create an image here and put the source on that image and append the image to the LI.
I think the things that I did here without function.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what you should do.
So everyone in the instructions, just go make sure your code matches exactly what the instructions are. So just go line by line in the instructions for this exercise. And try not to skip around too much doing multiple different things out of order. This tells you exactly the order in which you're supposed to do things. Okay, so we start by
Yes. What do you need for that?
So you done it?
So you create an image. Where did you create the image? Once you mention the previous image to source, now you should append the image to the not to the ally.
Say create ally, then create.
Append the image.
No, you should not put the image in the body. You should put the image in the ally because you have the image for every. No, not only for ally, but the ally that you create.
So you're a little bit.
It's new ally. It's called new ally. So new ally dot without document. Save now. What? No, no, you need to create inside the loop. So for every yeah, this is
So yeah.
yes, because you're not putting any source inside the image. So the image doesn't have any source. It's there, but it doesn't have any source. So the same way you said podcast I, the name, you can say podcast I dot image URL, and you can say image dot source equal dot.
Yes.
I created the way for LI and H1.
Yes.
For the like matching.
But this is not an object. This is an li and h1. This is an li and this is an h1. These are not objects. Just to name them whatever you like. You don't need to change the name. But just remember that this is.
Yeah, I have just named like.
Okay, up to you. But so you put the name here. Yeah, but so what does podcast refer to?
Broadcast is a array of objects.
Yeah. Guys, because I've just like received this question a lot of times. If you just follow me like just for a second. If I have the list of podcasts here, so we have the list of podcasts. So I will just paste it here. So podcasts refers to the whole array. Does it make sense? It's the whole array. Podcast of one or I in your case, or refers to which one? So say 0. We get the first one. Dot name, it refers to what? The name of that first one. So keep this in mind. This is how you should access it.
Oh, okay.
So exactly here, you should get that one. After that, say.
So you need to access that objects properly in your HTML. Now that should that properly
But you will not see anything on the screen. Sorry for interrupting again, but I saw many of you creating the UL and appending the allies to the UL. But that will still not show in the screen because the UL itself is not appended to anywhere. So be careful. The UL is not something special. If you create a UL, you create a list of allies, you put the allies inside the UL, but they will not show on the screen. You need to also append the UL to the body or to something. That's just like because I saw so many people doing the same thing. So here you create a UL, but the UL is not appended anywhere. So what you can do here is you can say document.
So we need to get the name of our current podcast.
Body
Name of
dot
podcast.
child. New
Almost. But podcast refers to the entire podcast. So you would access the
it's not called names, it's called podcast. Pay attention to the code. So change name of podcast everywhere.
podcast isn't close. But now you're accessing the zero.
No, because
just a value. It's just a value. You cannot put a value as a child. The child can be only something you create with creativity. That's the only thing that you can append. So here, you should not say my URLs of the child. So what's the purpose of this one? What do you mean with it?
So the podcast doesn't have that.
What?
So you can put the new URL.
It's like
Why not put the new URL? Ally, so
Okay, so what do
that's the purpose. Because the new ally you created it, you put the text of here. Yeah.
it's called my URL?
Yes. No, but this one is no. Here you should say
So
image
you created
source.
for every podcast, create a new line.
And you say append.
Change the inner HTML.
Instead of you should do podcasts. Correct.
So,
This is the idea.
H1. Change the inner. Let's say H1.
No.
You are not
Because
going
text content is for putting text. But if you have an image and it has a URL, you don't want to put it as text. You want to put it as the source of the yeah. So if you have an image, you say this is the source, you give it the URL, you append it as a text.
H1 in object 2.
okay.
You
But
see?
the first is image.
Maybe it's better to name it like somehow we know that this is new li and this is new h1 so we are not confused. You know what I mean? Change the h1
H1.
the name of the current podcast of the new text content podcast name. Append the h1
Which one is the bracket there? Okay.
No. Append the h1 to the li.
Okay, now we append it. My
Li? No. H1 the li. So my li. To new li.
Which one? Which one is for
Is it true that all the three images should be the same?
Yeah, because we have the same URL.
Okay.
At least that's what I can see.
I was thinking that maybe you're making some mistake.
We have the same URL.
That's not quite right, but keep going. Now we're at what happens in
This, okay, make one space within our card.
so yeah, keep going, keep going. Let's assume
But
it's
only if the image is
Yeah.
So make a if statement. Because only if it is
images? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
what will be there.
Yeah, because broadcast has some CSS inside and it's slow, but no. You can see here.
I think we have
Because
Just
one
change
dot image URL and it does not
Each line there is like text
so it
and
starts
the image.
with the J undefined.
We don't have much time, so
not quite just one.
so let's try and do it together, so we can do other things.
You're very close.
No, adding.
Just a second.
Oh, okay.
Instead of what is image? Image is just an object, right? It's just a piece that represents image. So we don't
Now I create
Is
First you need to create the image.
yeah.
podcast. Podcast. Yes. Nice job.
Let's try and do it together.
What she has.
I'll just delete all the code that I have. If you can follow with me, please. We have empty stuff here. Okay? So first thing, I will just copy the podcasts, put them here. The second thing is I will create an li, a UL. So it's like UL equal document dot create element UL. Okay? And something really important, I will put this UL in the body. So say document.body append child UL. Cool. Every time you do few steps, you write a bit of code, save, go, and check. We have an empty UL here. Because if you write a lot of code and after that you check, you'll be lost. Where did I do the mistake? So write a bit of code, save, check, write a bit of code. This is the feedback loop. It should be shorter. So I will make a loop now. So I will say for, yeah, I'll just name it I. And we have podcast. So I just I have an empty for loop that loops through the podcast. Does it make sense? The first thing that I'm gonna do is go here. I will create an li, const li equal document dot create element li. Okay. Again here, create an h1, const h1 equal document dot create element h1. Okay. I will say change the inner HTML of the h1 to equal the name of the current podcast. That means that the h1.text content, it should be equal to podcast of I of name. Make sense? Next step, append the h1 to the li. It is fine. It is like in this case it's equally the same. They will change the content. So we will say li.append child h1. Now add an image to the li with the source. So I will say here const image emg document create element emg. Make sense? I will say here emg dot source equal to what? Podcast of I dot image URL precisely. Okay? And I go to the next step. So now add an image to the li. So I should say also li dot append child. What?
Image.
Image precisely, which is emg. Make sense? We are missing one step. Append the li to the UL. And we say, should I do it outside or inside the loop?
Inside.
Why?
Yeah, outside.
inside it because you want to.
Everybody who say you need to say why.
Every li should be added to.
Exactly. For every iteration, we need to add a new li. Exactly. It's not just one li we want to add. For every iteration, we need to add an li. So we say ul.append child li. We get an ugly, but it works. Make sense? Questions?
We should add this if statement if there is a.
That's good. So here the source is actually maybe it is there, maybe it's not. You can see here in the object. So we will say is like const image URL equal this, and we say if image URL, we move this one to here, and we also move this image to here. So we don't do anything related to image. What? But I created a variable called image URL. There is a variable called image URL. So now I have 2 images or 3, and nothing for the last one. Because we have 1, 2, 3, and make sense? No questions?
Yeah, this li append child.
Yeah.
And before it was li list element with the text, so we can actually append a document object in li as well.
Yeah. Li. So you can put a UL inside an li, inside a UL, inside an li, inside a UL. Like whatever. You can have like UL inside it an li, inside it an a tag, inside it a UL, inside it an li, inside it a es. You can. It's a tree. You can nest it the way you like. Does it make sense? No questions? Clear for everyone? Cool. Now let's talk about the last thing for today. Are you sure you all? No questions? Clear for everyone?
You post this in Slack.
Yeah, definitely I will. It's over there. Yeah. So we said that our HTML would be represented as a DOM structure, which is a tree. So in this case we have the UL with, let's say, only 3 allies. Okay? And each ally is actually an H1 and an image. Make sense? This is our structure, and it's the same here and the same here. Make sense? So this is like the result. Before we had nothing. Before we had just an empty arrow, an empty tree, and now we have like. So we construct this tree manually. We created this one, and we created this one. We only had the body before, and now we appended all this to the body. Does it make sense? No questions. Let's talk about something else. So until now, we could actually query and ask the DOM questions, like give me this element, get me this element, stuff like that. We could also edit stuff in the DOM. So we had like 2 things. The third step, which is really important, is actually listening for events, which is like the most crucial point. So let's say you have here an image, or you have an li, and you want to wait when the user click, or when the mouse enters, if you have screen, and this is the li, if the mouse enters, or the mouse leaves, or the user double click, or the user clicks once, you want to get notified and do something. So for example, in case of Facebook, you have like the chat list here. When you click on it, something will happen. How to model that, how that's happening? That's happening because of event. So you can attach events to everything in the DOM. Does it make sense? At least from like a point, just from abstract point of view. So we will be doing that. We'll grab some elements, and we will have like events attached to them. Let's try and do that. So, second part. So the code that we write now is not really related to the first one, but so until now we've constructed UL, as I said, and it has a list of allies. Let's say I want to add a click handler, for example, for something. I will just go here. I will create a button. I will call it click me. Okay. I will comment this code. So we have only one button now. Okay. So when you click the button, I want to something happen. I just want a console.log or something. Does it make sense? And as we did before, the first step is to get something from the DOM. So to get the button, if you want to edit or do anything, you just need to get it. So we will say const btn equal document dot query selector, for example, button. Let's console.log it. We have a button. Okay? So I want to add an event listener. It's called an event listener. Means I will be listening for an event. And when it happens, I can do something. Does it make sense? We will listen for events. And these events are really different. Could be like a click event, could be double click event, could be a typing event, could be mouse move event, could be anything. You know what I mean? So we are interested in the click, but it's like a general format. The format is that you will have your element. You will say add event element. You will say add event listener. Okay? And it will take, at least for now, we'll give it two arguments. One is the type of the event. One is what to do when the event happens. So the type could be a click. And what to do is just a function. So let's say function, like this. And we say console.log. Click. Because we have a click here. And our element is what? Is the btn. So I grab my element, I add an event listener to it, I give it which type of event I'm interested in, and I give it a function, which is a callback function. We will go into details about that. Let's go now and try it. So now every time we click, there is click, because we are clicking. Does it make sense? And you can replace this with anything you want. So we can say here, mouse move. You can see it's happening a lot because I'm moving in the mouse a lot. Does it make sense? Questions about this? It is clear or? Yeah?
It's a bit
tell me again the difference between query selector and get element by ID?
It is literally the same. Get element by ID will give you an element, but it will literally only search by ID.
For that ID, yeah.
But query selector, you can give it like a full-fledged CSS selector that it's really complex. But get element by ID, you are only limited to IDs.
Yeah, with the ID, yeah, but we can also use it just get element button, right? Or no?
What do you mean?
There is no get element only?
There is get element by tag name.
Yeah, so what's the difference between
But get element by tag name will only give you an element by its tag name. So you give it a P, you give it a div. But let's say I want to like have like a CSS selector, like literally, give me all the children of this div, give me all the P's. So query selector is like for literally querying the DOM.
But right now it doesn't.
No, right now it's like really simple. So we can replace it by get element by ID or a tag name. Yes, it is the same. It is the same. They are all the same. They only differ in like how powerful and what they accept as parameters. So for example, if I know that I'm only using IDs, I can just go with get element by ID. But in this case, I'm just using query selector because it's more flexible. And it only returns one. Questions about this? And there is like so many events. If you go to just say browser events, say list, just googling it. Yeah. There is like a lot of events. Network event, online, offline, focus event, printing, text. We say mouse event. Click, double click, mouse down, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse move, mouse over, mouse out, mouse up. So many. Keyboard event. Keyboard event, K down, K press, K up. We will like show the difference in between them, but this is the idea. It's like if you see any like complex web application, it always like waits for your things when you type or when you click stuff, and it will do stuff based on that. And this is the role of the event.
You can make a game by
Yeah, exactly. You can make a game, literally, just by this event. For example, let's say instead of attaching the event to the well, let's keep it for the button, but I will do document dot add event listener, because document itself is also it's called the target. You can also like add events to it because it's all considered as like an HTML node. So you can see here, I give it an event, I give it a function. I'm interested in mouse move. Okay? And I will say console.log mouse. And now everywhere I move my mouse, because the event is on the document. So every time I just enter the document, it starts like a lot. Does it make sense? And you can add multiple events. So you can say mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse enter, mouse leave.
You have it backwards.
What?
You had it backwards. You have mouse enter.
Oh, seriously? Fast. So now I'm just outside. I'm literally outside. If I will enter, it will say mouse enter, because mouse enter only happens once. I enter once, but while I'm in, it's a mouse move. Once I leave, it's just one mouse leave. So you can see even like drag and drop and stuff like that, they happen like this way, because like while you are moving, they keep like track of where is the mouse and they move the element with you, something like that. So this is the basics of like events. Another thing that it's really important is the event object itself. So every time you have an event listener like this, let's say mouse move, you get an event variable here. Okay? What's the purpose of this one? It's just some information about the event itself. For example, once you are moving the mouse, it's like, where is the location of the mouse? Stuff like that. So this object holds some information about the event itself. Let's just console log it. Okay? You can see here, mouse move, and it's an object. A bunch of things. You can see here, for example, client X and client Y, which is like the X and the Y of the mouse. So for example, if I will enter from here, client X is like 4 and the other one is 0. If I will enter from here, the client Y is 0 and the X is like here. So we can just say event.client X, event.client Y. So here I'm 0, 0, 0, 1. If I go this way, only the Y is moving, or the X is moving, sorry. And if I go down, both they are moving, or one of them is moving. So you can take this pixel and do something to it. You can, for example, like every time the mouse move, you put an element there, and it will be like drawing, something like that. Does it make sense? So like the event system is something really powerful. So these are called mouse events. And mouse events, they have like client X and client Y, means like where the event happened because it's because of mouse. We also have like keyboard event and things. Questions? So we have like really important things here. We have the element, could be a button, could be a document, could be an input. We attach an event to it. We could attach multiple events like we did here. And the event has a name. Which type of event? It's well-known types. You can look at it in the internet like I did. And you give it a function. Essentially, when this happens, call me. Run this function. Does it make sense?
Makes sense, but I can't see the same console thing, so will you copy this as well to send?
Yeah, I will. I will. So I will just comment this. Let's do something also a bit weird. So let's say document. So let's say document, add event listener. So we are adding event listeners to the document, which is like, so we will say, so as we saw here, we have a lot of event and one of them is the keyword event. So let's say key press. Let's say key press function.
You have a type of,
Yeah.
you have a type of function.
Funds, you should define a funds.
Yes. Thank you. So here we can also console.log keyboard. And we can see here, remember the event, it has some information about the event. So now, if I click, this is what happened.
Showing which key.
Exactly. So each object is the alt key, the code of the key, is it the control key, what's the key is F. So let's say I type A, it's A. I typed another A, it's the capital A. Does it make sense? You can, for example, also, I will press an arrow. Well, you need to register for the arrow separately, but so you can see here we have key down, key press, and key up. key. It's just like so many different events. You can trigger like when you press the key, when you leave the key, or when you are while you are pressing the key. It is like so much details, but usually we do events on key up. Means like when you press and you leave the key. That's when something happened. I don't want, if you keep pressing the key, I don't want anything to happen. I want like when you press and you leave.
And when we want to, for example, show on the screen what we pressed, like I press A and it will be written, you
Yeah.
pressed A. So instead of console log, I will create an
Precisely, just append it to something or like, yeah.
Oh,
Let's do that. Let's yeah. So now I have the key up, which is if I will keep pressing, nothing will happen. Once I release it, the event happens. Does it make sense? So sometimes you want like when the key actually like when the user lift his like finger. So yeah. So she said that we. So let's do that. Let's create a P here. Let's start with empty. And we will say here const P equal document dot get or query selector P. What we will say is, so remember, the event has a key. So we can say event.key. That will give us the key that was pressed. Remember, every event has some information about like why it was like occurred, when, what's the information related to it, the mouse, stuff like that. So we can say p.textContent equal event.key. So now if I will type A, I have an A. If I will type B, I have a B, D, D. I can just... We can do something more clever. We can say const old text equal p.textContent, and we say old text dot plus. So we get the old one, we add it to...
And you can write.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... So now we keep like this, right? And I can... Yeah, you can create an editor essentially. No, there is something called an input. You don't need to write this. You can just use an input. In HTML, we are trying to reinvent that, but you can just use an input. But just to show you, for example, you can like, when we press delete, you can delete everything instead of like showing a backspace.
So then it's easy to make a game like counting the basic
Exactly.
something down.
Yeah. You can literally just say that. You can say
To make it as a number.
every time you type, we just increment the counter. Does it make sense? And the way it happened is that every time you register an event. So when you say, for example, we had the button. We had the button here. We grabbed the button in our code. So we had btn here equal this. So btn is a variable. When you add an event listener to it, it will go here. So we have an event listener here. So inside this button, we will have like, when a click happens, run this function. When a mouse moves, run this function. When X happens, do this. When a key, so we have a list of things here. And every time you click the button or you move to it, you move around it, the browser will say, do I have an event registered with this type? So for example, we don't have a click event for the document, or we have a click event for the button. Means like when you will click, the browser will say, oh, I have a click event. Someone is listening for the click, so I should run that function. But if you move your mouse, no one is listening for the mouse move. So the browser will say, no one is listening to it. Screw, I will not do anything. You get the idea? So events are just like registered inside the element. And whenever something happens inside the browser, a key happens, a mouse move, you resize the browser, anything happen. The browser will check, did the user or the developer attach any event for this type of event? No or yes. If yes, we call the function that we supplied as a second parameter. Does it make sense?
Does it really check, like, is there any function for this event?
It does, yes.
But there are like countless events.
Yeah,
Or
but it's
is
it is like a whole like sort of computer science behind it. They have like really smart like ways of like checking efficiently. They don't need to check everything.
Don't they just see the code and
No, they don't know because you can attach an event listener in a weird way. You can say, for example, here key app const event equal like now it's difficult which event, and you can like down change this one and make it something else.
but still it would be faster
It
to
is-
read this first and then look for only those events.
It's actually faster than reading the code because there is like some data structures and some like computer science where you don't need to travel everything. They have some, for example, when you do the traversal over the when you ask the query selector, it doesn't check everything. They are really smart. They know which stuff are inside and they can check it in a really fast way. So there is like some sort of math behind it. There is some math to do that like in an efficient manner.
And what is the best practice to add these event listeners like only to the JavaScript? Because I saw that sometimes they put it to HTML like on click function.
Yeah, well, there is like a whole debate about that, but I would say like for your stage, stick with this.
Okay.
This is better.
Yeah.
And after that, when you'll be comfortable with this, you will see other alternatives and you will be able to decide yourself. No one will dictate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's really, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
There is no like, does it make sense? And the cool thing is that when the event happens, we are not limited to only what's happening here. We can do so many things like the P here. So for example, I can say, I can put an input here. I can give it an ID. I would say, it's not really an ID, but it's fine. Placeholder, type your name. Okay. So we have type your name here. We keep this P. So now let's say const input is document dot get element by ID, and we've named it input. Make sense? Remember, every time you write a bit of code, double check your code. We have an input. That's nice. So now every time the user clicks the button, so we will move this code for the button. Every time the user now clicks the button, we want to print the name that the user has written inside the input. So here we can say, we don't need to say anything here, but every time you click the button, we say console.log, hello, and we say input dot value. Test, hello test. Let's just comment this code. So hello, click the button, hello, hello, or hello Yunus. We can do it in a better way. we can actually put it inside. So we can say here const input text and put it as the text of the P. Does it make sense? So if I will type something here, if I click the button, I will get the P, get the value from this one, and put it inside the P. Whatever. Is it clear? Please, if you have questions, just shoot. We can also, for example, do something like this. Yeah, it is split dot reverse. Yeah. We can also do it like in a funny way. So we get the value, we split it. When we split, we make it an array. So array of every character, and we say reverse to it. So now if you say Yunus, click. No, just a second. Nope.
You're splitting into.
We should put an empty character. We should an empty character, yeah. Yeah, we shouldn't put an empty character. So if we say, yeah, yeah. I don't know what's that, but it's a crab. Does it make sense? Output the code. It's in class 11, and do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, I'm here to
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Do you have any questions? It is the whole event thing and event like types. Is it clear for you?
Yeah, we just need to practice what.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You will have a whole homework about that to actually practice.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, welcome. Bye. No questions? Nice. People are getting it really fast.
On the slides we get some more.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But so this is like your homework for this week.
Yes.
You can just like you know how to find it, basically.
And don't be afraid to throw on Slack when you get stuck, you know? Tag some other people in the class who you had help with before, tag me. Just throw it when you get stuck after half an hour, you're working on the thing. Put it in Slack and see what you get.
Okay, if you don't have any questions, I don't have any more things to explain.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.